Hello guys, and welcome back to another video of Architects 3DP.
This is the 10th episode of the Build the Best DIY 3D printer series. In the last episode, we did put together the 3 axes that we built before separately, and today we're going to assemble the extruder, getting at the end of the video this nice result.
Now I'm gonna show you the components that we'll need to build this part of the printer. But before starting, be sure to subscribe and to ring that bell to be notified when cool stuff is uploaded. If you do it, you will help me creating new content and growing the channel to reach more special viewers like you. Alright, so the first part that we'll need to start with the build of this episode are the next.
First, the 3D printer extruder body, 4 M3 square nuts and 2 M3 hex nuts. We're going to insert them in the embedded gaps, starting with the square nuts. We'll have to insert them here in these 2 gaps, and also here to hold the pin sensor. Then to install the hex nuts, we can use a long M3 screw to apply some force, and then unscrew it. We'll do it with both screws like so. Next we'll grab our E3D V6 extruder that has the temperature sensor and the heater already installed. Actually we're using a cheaper clone that I bought from Amazon for a significantly more affordable price that you can find linked down in the description. We'll use a zip tie to put together all the cables coming out of the extruder so they will be more organized for the cable management in the next episode. Once we get it, we'll insert it in place as you can see here. Now we'll keep the extruder body apart and we're going to grab the 3D printer extruder cover. One more time, we are going to insert a couple M3N hex nuts in these embedded gaps. To install it, remember that you can use a long M3 screw to insert it with the help of a screwdriver. Next, we'll grab the extruder body and present the extruder cover in place like so, covering the hot end, and to hold it in place we'll use an 18mm and a 25mm M3 screws that we are going to install now. And here we have our extruder more or less built. Next we'll pick up our NEMA 17 stepper motor and the filament pulley, and we're going to install the pulley on it, but without tightening it. Next we're going to install it in the body, but before you need to pick up the 3D printer extruder idler and also this 625 bearing, 2 M5W washers, and finally this small 3D printer shaft that will hold the bearing in place. So first we'll introduce it through the bearing, and then we'll insert the assembly into the extruder idler until we hear a click like so. Then we'll insert the 13mm M3 screw in this hole, passing it through the extruder idler, and the other 30mm M3 screw in this other hole. Then we'll place the extruder motor with the cable connector facing down, and we'll tighten the screws we just inserted to hold it in place. You won't want to apply too much pressure, since the idler has to be able to move a little bit. Once done, we're going to tighten the filament pulley after checking if it's perfectly aligned. For that you can introduce a piece of 1.75mm filament through the extruder to check the alignment, and then you'll need an Allen key to tighten the pulley. At this point we are going to close the idler and we're going to install the hardware that will keep it closed. We'll need a 40mm M3 screw, a spring, 2 M3W washers, and finally an M3 square nut that we pre-installed before in the embedded gap. Once clear, we'll insert the washer, spring, washer, and insert everything through this hole in here, tightening it a little bit. The extruder is starting to get in shape, isn't it? The next step will be to install the 5015 blower fan here, for what we'll use 2 20mm M3 screws that we're going to install here and here, so we'll insert them and tighten them with the help of a screwdriver. Before tightening it at 100%, we'll need to pick up the 3D printed part fan nozzle, insert on it a 20mm M3 screw and install the nozzle under the blower fan, tightening it with a screwdriver. Then we can tighten the 2 screws of the blower fan and jump to the next step, that will be to install the pin sensor. For that we'll need to insert it throughout its hole here in the bottom, and it will be held in place with these 2 10mm M3 screws and the 2 M3 square nuts that we pre-installed before in the embedded gaps. At this point we only need to drive all the cables in position, so we will connect the stepper motor cable and run it through this gap in here. Then we'll pick up the small 30mm fan that will cool down the hot end, and we'll install it in place with the 4 little screws that came with it. Now yes, we can say that we have finished this episode of the series with the extruder fully built. Finally, I'm going to make as always a recap of all the components we used in this episode. First, the 3D printed components we used for this build are the 3D printed extruder body, the 3D printed extruder cover, the extruder idler, the printed shaft, and the fan nozzle. For the electronics and special hardware, we used the E3D style extruder clone that included the heated block, the temperature sensor, the heatsink, and the 30mm fan. Also an EMA 17 stepper motor, the filament pulley, a 50-15 blower fan, and a 625 bearing. Finally, the regular hardware. We used 1x40mm M3 screw, 3x30mm M3 screws, 1x25mm M3 screw, 3x20 M3 screws, 1x18 M3 screw, 2x10mm M3 screws, 5 M3 square nuts, 4 M3 hex nuts, 2 M5W washers, 2 M3W washers, the spring, and a bunch of zip ties.
Okay guys, so that has been everything for this short video. If you're going to buy the components for this episode, you should know that we'll need 5 NEMA 17 stepper motor for the complete build of the printer, so it will be cheaper if you buy a pack of 5 on Amazon. Remember that down below in the description of the video, you will find all the links to download the modified STL files that we needed for this video, as well as the links to buy all the necessary components from Amazon through our affiliate links. If you still don't have a 3D printer to print all the 3D printer parts yourself, you can contact me by email at architects3dp@gmail.com and I will try to find you a solution.
In the next video, we'll assemble the extruder we just built to the rest of the 3D printer.
So be sure to subscribe and to ring that bell to be notified when cool stuff is uploaded. Hit the like button if you liked the video, leave a comment and share this episode so more people will be able to learn with the project. Finally, I just wanted to give a special thanks to all of you, and especially to our Patreon supporters for continuing to make this channel possible. If you want to join them and support the channel as well, getting nice rewards and making me super happy, you can do it navigating to patreon.com/architects3dp or clicking here in the top right corner. Okay guys, so as always, see you in the next video.